I thought I played a game, but I guess I didn't.
Really?
What did you think you played?
I can't remember. I feel like I played a game recently.
You did. You definitely did.
I didn't.
I do.
It is May 20th, 2015.
This is Idle Thumbs 211. I am Chris Remo.
I'm James Spafford.
I'm Jake Rodkin.
And I'm Danielle Riendo.
Jesus, 211. That's a big sounding number.
I know, isn't it crazy?
Scared
So
me.
many episodes.
Yeah, I know.
So many memories.
So many. So many memories.
210 memories.
Yes.
Over 210 memories.
That's our
Over 209 memories.
That's our retrospective on episode 210.
Yes. Well, I didn't hear it, so I'd be interested in that
That's true.
retrospective.
Yeah. So how's it going, guys?
It's going really well.
Yeah?
I'm playing a really cool game.
What is it?
I want to tell you all about it.
All right, well, I want to hear
it.
all about it.
I have been playing a AAA game, The Witcher 3.
Oh,
The Wild
nice.
Hunt.
Man, I've heard actually really good things about this.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
quite good.
All right. I never know what to expect from these games because I had a real tough time. I tried getting into both of the first two Witcher games and just didn't, I don't know. For whatever reason, I didn't connect with the world like a huge amount. And then as a result, I wasn't as sort of invigorated to push past some of the mechanical stuff that felt a little awkward to me.
Sure, I think this one is a little bit more accessible.
Did you play the first two?
I did not.
You would describe it as downgraded?
I would describe it as a baby game for babies, and it's too easy.
For like
No,
console noobs?
it's for console gamers. They've never seen real breasts before. Okay, I'm sorry, but this is a deep cut. There were a series of ads in video game magazines in the late 90s that were like insulting console gamers by saying, yeah, there are gamers out there, and then there are gamers who've seen real breasts, and it was for how PC gamers are real gamers.
What?
I am not even joking.
Okay.
This is a real thing.
I totally buy that.
Who placed the ad?
I don't even remember what they were advertising, but I was very offended as a 14-year-old
It's probably
girl.
for Daikatana or something.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it was that era. It was like 98, 99.
That's incredibly strange.
It is. I was so insulted. I was so insulted. I was like, I know what they look like. Got very mad. Anyway, this game has nothing to do with that.
Sorry, was that in a magazine?
Yes, it was in like Electronic Gaming Monthly for several months in
Which
the
was
late
a
90s.
console-oriented magazine anyway.
It sure was. I think it was a make you mad, get you to pay attention attitude era kind of ad.
Yeah.
Anyway, you will see breasts in this game, in fact, but that's not really the draw, I don't think. So The Witcher 3 is an open world action RPG set in a sort of medieval fantasy world. There's a whole fiction behind it. I know that there are books behind it. There's like a whole fantasy lore behind it. I honestly don't care that much about it. I think the writing is decent enough and the characters are well written enough that I'm interested in the characters, if not the massive amount of lore in this giant open world, basically. But yeah, it kind of plays, the way I keep thinking of it is a more mechanically interesting Dragon Age Inquisition, which I enjoyed that game. I didn't think the gameplay was terribly exciting, but I enjoyed it for the writing.
Sure.
This feels much more like, for example, the crafting system is actually very robust. You have to craft alchemy recipes to make sort of oils to put on your swords before you fight certain kinds of monsters. It helps to have, the Spector oil before you fight ghosts, or the beast oil before you fight beasts. Things like
Beast
that.
oil.
Yeah, you got to get that beast oil right there. Things like that are a big part of the game. Traversal's a big part of the game.
Spector oil?
Probably the same people who say real breasts.
You need that before you fight Warren Spector, also.
You got to drink down that Warren Spector oil. That's good, delicious stuff.
This week's podcast is sponsored by Spector Oil.
Warren Spector.
Spector.
Buy my oil.
Yeah, my delicious oil.
Drink my oil. I'm Warren Spector, and I approve this message.
You want to fight ghosts?
It's possible. So I'm probably 10-ish hours in or so. I'm doing a series of videos like how to beat these side quests. You take all these contracts. You take Witcher monster contracts because you are a Witcher, which is in this world a person who has mutations that give you supernatural powers. So your line of work is to sort of hunt down monsters and hunt down apparitions and things and so on and so forth.
Oh, I always assumed it was someone hunting witches. Is that
actually,
just a stupid thing to assume?
You are the Witcher in this game. You're not hunting the Witchers. There are witch hunters in this world. That's a whole
Wait, are there
other
witch
world.
hunters or Witcher hunters?
Yeah. Which is it?
So far, I've only seen witch
But
hunters.
so you're a witch? Do they just call witches witchers?
You're not exactly a witch. I guess
You're
you
like
have powers.
You're like witcher than a witch.
Yeah, you're a Witcher than a witch.
You're more Witcher
more
than
witch,
witch.
yeah.
You
The
know,
witchist.
which are you? Witcher or witch?
These jokes were probably all made like 5 years ago. Whenever the first Witcher came, whenever Witch came out.
Which one?
Which witch?
Which one are you talking about? Sorry. Okay. Here's the real thing I'm enjoying the most about this game. Just every quest so far that I've taken, again, still in the first 10 hours or so, but every quest so far that I've taken has been really different and at least somewhat interesting enough to hold my attention. I actually streamed last night on our channel, and I had a quest where I had to basically do a escort mission with a goat named Princess. And I had to kill a bunch of bears and things so that Princess could get to her supernatural owner happily. And then immediately after that, there was this incredibly wrenching, emotional scene with that had to do some family, domestic abuse and all these other things, which of course also involved a demon baby. It's just all over the place. And I actually really like that in this game. It's interesting. There's always something else going on. And I have not gotten bored yet with this big, crazy, ridiculous world that it's kind of put before me.
Yeah.
So, yes. Goats named Princess, demon baby, ghosts, all sorts of good stuff.
Warren Spector.
Warren Spector, his oil.
His delicious
It's
oil.
basically an oil tycoon game. It's
Yes.
basically about farming oil,
Yes.
drilling
Kind of
for oil.
like, kind of
A
like
lot of
how Fable 2 was like secretly a real estate management game. In this game, you're really just
Oil
an
tycoon.
oil merchant.
an oil
essentially.
baron.
That's what it
Is
is.
there snake oil? It doesn't help you kill snakes.
It's just
Or
snake
would
oil.
it?
It doesn't really do anything.
Doesn't do much.
Snake oil costs a lot, and you enchant your sword with it, and it's just the same sword. As
Yeah,
Man,
use it
why
on a
doesn't my
snake and it
snake
doesn't do
oil
anything.
work? God. This guy's selling me. Oh,
Does it make your sword like tastier? Like, is it?
What? Make it tastier? What are you?
I don't know.
How would you
oil?
know?
Eat my blade. I don't know.
What would
Do you not
some-
taste
my
the blade?
blade. I mean,
Oh
that's
my
what I
God.
say.
Were you making a taste my blade joke?
Yes, he
No. Now I
I
am.
thought you were. It was a very on-blade comment, Spaff.
Oh my god.
This is terrible. This is a terrible podcast.
Yeah,
so far.
this
Sorry,
is bad.
everyone.
Sorry we ruined Idle Thumbs forever.
I'm sorry, everyone. This game, like I said, I'm enjoying it quite a bit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of variety. There's a lot of good stuff there. To me, it kind of fills in the gaps where Dragon Age was kind of iffy for me. Like, I enjoyed Dragon Age. I'm talking about the one that came out last year, Inquisition, I guess. Yes.
What were the parts of it that you feel that way
I just
about?
thought the combat was so boring in Inquisition.
I kind of felt the same way. I played it for a few hours,
yeah.
which I know is not long enough to really like fully get a game like that. But
The real Dragon Age combat comes in at hour 35.
Basically.
As anyone who has seen breasts can attest.
Yeah, exactly.
but it did feel very rote,
Yeah.
the combat in that game. The sort of just like you've locked on and it just kind of loops and goes, and
Yeah.
you feel like you want it to be. You feel like because you can pause and issue orders and do these things, you feel like you want it to be tactical. But I never really ended up doing anything other than sort of kiting enemies while
Sure.
like just shooting them whenever my spells cooled down.
Yeah, I kind of got a little bored with the combat there, and I kind of did the same thing with that game. I played a few hours of it, and I also sort of watched Patricia play the entire thing, so I felt like I got the full experience. I also played the sections she didn't want to play, like whenever she was in a puzzle room, she was just like, hand me the controller. I was like, okay.
Whenever she got to a boring combat part, she'd give it to me to play.
Yeah, pretty
Man, that
much.
game has some boring combat.
I had such a good opinion of this.
How in a nutshell does combat work in The Witcher? At least in The Witcher 3, because my only experience with The Witcher actually was playing like a 20-minute demo of The Witcher 1 at E3 a decade ago, and I remember going, oh, that looks like there's some interesting stuff, but this game is not for me at all, so I kind of have tuned it out, but like, what generally do you do?
Generally, what you do,
Do you do
the do in your Witcher game? I think of it as Bloodborne light, especially coming off of Bloodborne, which, by the way, I am just about to beat. I have one boss left to beat Bloodborne. And when I finally finish the game, I actually want to talk a little more in depth about it, but I won't do that till I actually finish the game.
Yeah, I was going to ask how maybe this compares to playing hundreds and hundreds of hours of Bloodborne, which is like super intense.
Yeah, this is a lot less intense, but mechanically somewhat similar. I mean, with less... Bloodborne is such a rigorous game, and it's very consistent about its rules. It's very difficult. This is a lot more user-friendly, but it's kind of the same general idea. You lock onto an enemy, you can sidestep. It's even kind of the same button. You're sort of getting out of the way. You're timing your attacks. You're parrying, which is the same exact system as in Bloodborne. Just you don't have a gun. You're just using your sword instead to parry attacks in this. And it's sort of the same general idea in terms of there are enemies who will try to swarm you. There are enemies that are really powerful and you're going to take on one at a time or two at a time. They kind of have very basic tactics, but it feels very similar. You're sidestepping, you're slashing with your weak attack, you're slashing with your strong attack. So Bloodborne light.
Sure.
With Dragon Age, but better. I know, that's the worst, most reductive way of explaining games. It's just, I played so much. Yeah, I know. I just played so much Bloodborne that everything is going to be a comparison right now. Fair. So.
Well, and I feel like it's... I guess this applies more to Dragon Age than Bloodborne, but you know, RPGs of this type tend to sort of resemble each other in the broad strokes. So, you know, it's. I feel like it's fair enough to put it on that spectrum.
It's a big medieval fantasy world where there's
well, the combat is usually like of a rough type, kind of.
It's medieval combat, right? Yeah. It's swords and sorcery and axes and spells. So
accurate medieval combat.
Yes, very accurate. It is 100%
oils,
historical.
spells,
little goats.
There's some interesting. This is always sort of the thing I notice. Of course, there's some interesting stuff with regards to gender in this game. There is a woman Witcher who you play as for part of the game, and I don't think this is much of a spoiler. I'm pretty sure they explain this.
Is that like someone who witches women, or it's a woman who is a witcher?
She is a witcher.
Okay.
She is herself a witcher, or mostly a witcher. She trained to be a witcher, whatever. She's basically a witcher. Woman. She's a witchy woman, is what she is. So you can kind of play as her, at least some parts of it. And the sort of the world explains that it sucks to be a woman in medieval times, which is like, oh, at least you're acknowledging it. I'm going to give you, some points for that.
Does it say that when you're like choosing your gender at the beginning of the game? Like, debuff,
a man
you're
or
a woman.
Note, it sucks to be a woman.
Hard mode enabled.
That's got those like Patrick Stewart voice. It sucks to be a woman in medieval age.
As
so lovely.
Like UI selection sound plays underneath that.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Horribly fine.
I thought you said a woman of medieval age.
That sure sucks too.
Is there an age slider? The Bethesda games have that.
There is in Bloodborne, but not in this.
Oh, in Bloodborne, yeah. Oh, man, those games are crazy.
The Witcher games seem like the particular character that you're playing as is an important thing to that game more than...
It's true.
For
you're
sure.
Playing a character.
I know. Yes, it's true. I know those.
Would you have to play this character or the old version of that character? That would be so awesome. Whatever. Totally down for that. It's a specific character, but you just choose how old that person is when this story starts in their life. Otherwise, they're the same guy.
Yeah, it's all Geralt.
They always look good when you make an old person like in Bloodborne or something and they look old, but then they just have the spry movement of like a 20-year-old combat veteran.
They never break their hip no matter what, and it's like you would have
be more fun.
You'd have a broken hip right now.
In my just like ongoing fantasies of games that have like 1 out of 1,000 random chances of things, if you passed a certain age threshold in one of those games and it just silently like at that point, there's just a 1 out of 1,000 chance your hip will just break when you swing your sword.
That would be pretty cool.
That's it. That's the only thing. It's not balanced in any way.
They just need to do the fight scene in The Incredibles with the giant robot, where there is a random roll that you'll just throw out your back, then if you keep fighting, there's a random roll that you'll also like just do a chiropractic move that puts it back, and then you're fine again.
Right.
Oh man.
You just get hobble mode for a while until you someone throws you over their shoulder and it happens to like realign your spine for you. Carries you off in a sack, but then you can rip out of it again.
Are there any multiplayer games that do stuff like that?
Have you be an old man?
No, I mean...
Old man simulator.
I'm guessing the answer to that is no. But I just mean when you describe that, it made me just imagine a multiplayer game where just things happen to your character at random intervals that are unpredictable, that just force you to have to adapt and play in a different way, just on the fly.
That feels like a variation
cool
that you'd
idea.
want to something like Gang Beasts, where you can also just press the old mode, and then everyone also just has that crap happening to them.
Right.
They all have one broken hip.
I think it would be a cool like mutator for an Unreal Tournament game or something like that. You know, something where it's like very fluid and everyone's moving around really fast, and then suddenly just like a crazy thing happens.
I bet. Although that would be fun, it would be deemed incredibly unpopular because the competitive scene would never turn it on.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I guess maybe that's not the best game for it because those games are so cutthroat and sort of balanced. But I don't know. It's just that it wouldn't. Obviously, I don't actually mean like break your hip or like crick your neck. I just mean like something that just applies a modifier on a completely random,
Right, as opposed to like
unknown-
Smash Brothers, where there's things that randomly modify the game, but it's items that everyone then races for.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
You'd be wanting to play Team Fortress 2 when suddenly just one guy gets a huge beefy arm out of the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I feel like World of Warcraft does stuff like that but only in specific occasions, like in raid bosses and stuff. Like they'll just
really?
put a weird debuff on a couple of people, and
yeah.
like a druid can
Right,
heal that
right.
person of a thing.
Yeah, that's true.
And that happens.
That stuff is actually fun because it
Yeah.
lets you feel like a team because you have to react to unpredictable things.
Yeah,
I
some of the
remember
stuff-
that from way back in the day.
Yeah, the team-based stuff in that is super good, and all of those random things. When you were talking about first-person shooters having that, was it Action Quake? Did you ever play Action Quake?
I only played a couple rounds of Action Quake in my life.
I remember that you could break your leg if you jumped slightly too
There were-
high,
there were-
but then you hobbled around
That was
with
sort
a
of a
broken
thing.
leg.
In those, there were a lot of Quake mods in sort of the pre-Counter-Strike era that were like referred to as like realistic, even though they were really actually like they were descendants of Action Quake, which is actually trying to be an action movie. But yeah, there was all about like if you take too much fall damage, you would just like your camera would tip to the side, you'd break your leg, then you'd have to stop and bandage, or you'd have to go get a bandage or whatever, depending on the thing, or else you would just be bleeding out of your leg and limping around.
Or just like lying on the floor.
Or just lying on the ground.
Anything. Yeah, like Left 4 Dead when you're just knocked out and you're just like lying on the floor.
It's different though than the game just suddenly saying now your character lilts 30 degrees to the right and you have to keep compensating for it, or else you'll just walk in a circle when you press W or something. Like just that doesn't happen, but it should. That's the kind of multiplayer stuff that I actually like, especially in first person stuff, because I just like dumb LAN party play when someone turns all the gravity off or whatever else. But
that's always good. God, I think it was Heretic 2. There was a multiplayer. Is Heretic 2 the one where you could like pole vault? Does anyone even remember this stuff? Dude, God, like
wait, Heretic 2? Because I only played.
No, it wasn't Hexen.
Oh, I remember Hexen.
Oh, it was because was it which one came first, Heretic or Hexen? I cannot remember. Whatever. One of those games is the sequel to the other one.
Anyway, in one of those games, there was a chance that you could turn into a giant chicken whilst playing deathmatch, and then that was similar to that. Like, oh, I'm a huge chicken now. You just have to run around
deal with it.
pecking people. Yeah, you just have to deal with that for a while.
Hexen's subtitle was Beyond Heretic.
Oh, perfect.
There you go.
Those were by Raven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I played Hexen 64.
Oh man,
That was a game.
Good.
Let me tell you. Of that era, was also Doom 64, and there's a new Doom a-coming.
Oh yeah, did you
y'all
guys see
read that?
the trailer for that?
No.
I saw the 2-second.
It was totally
flash
weird
thing.
because it just looked
that it?
like more Doom 3-ish stuff, right? I mean, obviously it's like
Oh, is it just Doom 4? Because
Yeah.
Doom 4 was announced and almost appeared, and then was like it was suppressed, and sort of its face was pushed down back under
Yeah.
the pool.
Yeah.
There's like what
Yeah.
Doom
I
4?
think
I don't know what that is.
they're
It just
just-
blinked up for air
I think
another time.
as is fashionable these days, I think they're just calling it Doom. Which is just
Oh.
what you
Oh,
do
really?
now, I guess. Yeah.
Reboot.
But the
Gritty
The
reboot.
teaser was just like 2 seconds.
Doom sure needed a
of,
gritty
like-
reboot. It was too happy.
Yeah. No, but it's not it doesn't look, it literally just looks like a direct, it looks like Quake 4 or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it just, or Doom 3. It's
Brown.
just a first person shot of a guy reloading a shotgun, the Doom guy, I guess, reloading a shotgun. And then it's 3 seconds of a demon with like rocket launchers on his shoulders is going, and then it's instantly over.
Man, that's such a
That's
bummer.
all you
Like,
need.
In this year right now, you could get away with a bold as fuck
Yes.
Doom that actually evokes the color palette and the weird architecture
Yeah,
of
you
old
really
Doom,
could.
and
that'd
people
be
would be
awesome.
all over it. Like weird,
I would
rusty things with crazy hell in the background and just like skull,
Crayon pixel demons.
just all that weird shit, and then just weird 3D hollow
Taco
displays over the
demons.
top of it. Just
Yes.
fucking go crazy, or like a gray corridor.
Yeah.
Did you play Far Cry Blood Dragon? Did you ever
Yes.
check that out? That
Yes.
had
I
like
mean,
a good...
I know what it is. I know of it.
Yeah. That was a
You're right.
good
It is just being
attempt
called
to doing a
Doom.
thing.
Right, I mean, that's-
cutscenes. It was amusing.
Yeah, I didn't think that game was very funny, which made me not
No.
want to play it. But
That's why I stopped
exactly.
playing.
Like, I mean, I think you can, if you look at like the crazy visual direction that was at least proposed. I don't know if they stuck with it for the updated Unreal Tournament, where it was just like bold, weird visual
I don't think
design.
it's out yet.
No, I don't think it is either. But why not do a Doom game that's crazy bold looking? Why not?
No, absolutely.
Man,
That would be
just-
awesome.
just
No one's gonna
expansion for
buy.
Doom.
No one's gonna buy this Doom. And like, I mean, people are, but the same
will.
number of people are probably gonna buy it if it looks exactly like it does right now, or if it has crazy shit on top of anything that they're doing right now. People would like
Well, that
whatever.
game's, I mean, this is a case where that game has been in development for a really long time, and it's hard to imagine, just based on how id has been doing recently, it's hard to imagine them like doing the same stuff they've just kind of been doing for the last several years, suddenly being like an incredible,
Yeah.
you know, like, it sucks to say because there's so much history in that studio, but like, I don't know.
Because like I went back, or I only saw it on your phone when you were waving it around, but the space station stuff in the Magic Circle,
Oh, yeah.
yes.
a AAA version of that aesthetic, basically, but with the
man,
old Doom
yeah.
color palette.
Oh my god.
Where they're just not afraid to have dark rooms that then suddenly just have weird bands of neon light around doors and like computer consoles that are 3 times brighter than everything else and just strange stuff in the
Yeah.
skybox. Like,
Yep.
that's what I always think about when I think about the aesthetic of Doom.
Oh yeah,
But,
for sure.
you know, whatever. I'm sure it'll have a
delicious.
pixelated John Romero head somewhere in it.
Yeah.
You could type IDDQD or whatever. And it'd be like,
Id clip.
You could type ID
Yes.
SPISPOPD or whatever. I don't remember which one that is. I don't remember any. I remember all the cheat codes that you type in at the beginning, but I don't remember which things they all
What
do
they do.
anymore. Yeah.
Here's big head.
if you
mode.
type that into Doom 3, then it just said, "You have a good memory."
Really?
Yeah, just this weedy little,
That's
and
so
just in the
cheeky.
console, it just went. "Nah." Really, that's it.
Oh, we've talked about this before. That's like if you type Shift FUND into Sim Ant, I think it's like you have $10,000.
It just says that.
Yes.
Oh,
Good.
Yeah.
those little programmer jokes from the olden days.
The olden days of
Do people
Doom,
ship
yeah.
cheat codes still? I think we've probably talked about this before, but
Grand
I
Theft Auto is all like Rockstar games are all about cheat codes. Right? That's all about like
guess, I don't
mash a million buttons on your controller, then sort of type a crazy thing, and you can spawn whatever vehicle you want into the world or whatever. But then if you abuse them, your star rating goes up. Like those games have a ton of the sort of old school cheat stuff of just spawn
They seem
whatever
like
car
they
you
would.
want.
Those games are a
yeah.
weird combination of like trying to be very stylish in a modern way, but then also like just including weird old shit.
I think they also
Yeah.
know that people obsess over those games so much that they can put that sort of stuff in, and there's going to be a big enough community amongst their customer base who just gets into like finding all the weird cheats.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
same way
I'm
that they
sure
have
that's
like the UFO legend and all that
And the
little weird,
jetpack and
this
stuff like
weird
that,
stuff
yeah.
hiding off in the deep fringes of those games. Weird stuff.
The UFO legend.
Yeah, there's a UFO, I guess. I don't know.
This is something my girlfriend writes about extextensively.
About-
the legend in Grand Theft Auto.
Oh,
the
man.
jetpack
About like
shit.
GTA urban myths.
Speaking,
Yeah.
of, speaking of something that she wrote about recently, she wrote about God, what game was it?
Kanye Quest.
Kanye Quest.
Oh man,
That
This
thing.
like
What?
RPG that came out like 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Just some little indie game that just looks. It's in the sort of SNES RPG
Yeah, it was
style.
an RPG Maker game.
Yeah,
it's
so it just
another
looks
thing
like-
that looks to me like it's of the same culture of Barkley, Shut Up, and Jam Gaiden.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, that's the sense I got as well. Maybe slightly less
Yeah.
bonkers than that, but definitely in that vein. I mean, it's called Kanye Quest, right? So obviously, and Patricia Hernandez at Kotaku published this crazy story about a like secret just area in this game that has been present ever since the game shipped, because the actually like executable downloadable file hasn't been updated since 2013. So like this has not been patched in.
Right, there's no like injection that happened apparently.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what you do. You have to like,
It's a super weird thing. So the game is about your Kanye taking out the trash, and then you get transported by a wormhole to 2030, and it's all clones of famous rappers, like Tupac and Biggie are in it, and Jay-Z, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And in this one room where the clones are or something, there's a console, and if you say ascend into the console, if you type in ascend,
which is based on like
cult thing, and the Ascension cults.
Yeah, it's based on like other material previously that like that there's no indication to do this except that like someone just tried it one time. But you can type anything in. Like you can type anything into.
Well, there's like an obscure message that vaguely has the word ascend in it that you can find earlier in the game.
On, even though it's not like connected to this,
it would be very hard to connect those dots because there's this thing later on that you type in. No matter what you type in, it goes, oh, you want to. Like, whatever you typed in, me too. Like, and you can type anything in there, and it makes no difference. And so there's no reason to assume that there was, like, a secret word.
Yeah.
But someone just decided to try it, and it just, like, unlocked an area of the game.
Just bonkers secret room where there are all these terminals with passwords. And
it seems like the world keeps getting darker and darker and darker the more terminals you... Yeah, weird.
And then if you enter all these passwords in this dark room that you can no longer see where you're going... It'll contact you. It'll say something like, this is an experiment. We want to see, you must be an open-minded individual. Can we contact you? Can we change things in your life? And it's very ominously worded. Can we change things in your life? As in, like, it knows where you live or something.
Well, you have to give it your address, right?
Yeah, you have to give it your address.
Like, address.
And it's so creepy. It's so bizarre. So somebody tried this and, you know... They're
nothing yet.
Nothing yet.
That they know of.
Within 2 weeks, we will change something in your life. And it's just like, what the hell? It's amazing.
Hopefully the game just uninstalls itself in 2 weeks.
I mean,
the developer of the game coming to your house and uninstalling the game. I couldn't figure out how to make it uninstall through the software.
Sorry, delete local content. There we go. Okay, bye.
Want to get a coffee or something? No, all right. Well, it's so creepy about
Kanye.
And it's Kanye who did it. It's all Kanye. What's so weird about this? She found this, in a message board or something, and then was like, all right, this is probably bullshit. And then she did it, and she replicated it like twice. And she was telling me, it was like 3 a.m. She was like, I'm afraid that these people are going to find out where we live. Like, this is really creepy. I mean, she didn't give the address or anything, but it was just like the creepy moment of like putting in these passwords, and this thing is actually working. This creepypasta from the internet is a real thing in this game. It's very, very bizarre. We live interesting lives, I guess. Playing video games.
Man, that thing's weird. Did they actually conclude what was happening?
There
was talk of it being a cult or something, like a recruitment tool.
Well, like an actual reality?
Yeah.
That seems a little much.
Yeah. I like the idea that a cult is like, how do we recruit people? Make a joke RPG where you play as Kanye.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was like, that's the end of the article.
That nobody will find for years.
And then, put a thing in the game that it'll take people 2 years to find.
A very selective cult. Yeah. It's a cult of one. I would love if this was somehow connected to Kanye in some way. That he's like, it'd be really, really interesting. We did this weird thought experiment.
Yeah.
He would probably be the kind to do it.
That's what I'm saying.
He has weird fucking, like, burlap bag clothing line.
No. I'll let you use my likeness in this game, but you have to put this thing in. It's just one idea.
Yeah. I have this Ascend cult that I'm starting.
Ascend Kanye.
Might take people years to find it. I don't care.
It was intended to be a promotional launch thing for Tidal, but no one found it quite in time. The thing you get in the mail is a 1-month subscription card to the Tidal music streaming service. Your life will change.
Yes. It sure will. Never be the same after that.
You guys want to take a break?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nah.
Video game. Thanks to Audible for sponsoring this podcast. Audible is the leading provider of audiobooks on the internet. You can go to audiblepodcast.com/thumbs for a free 30-day subscription and a free book of your choice to keep forever. A free audiobook, that is.
Yes. Spaff, you actually recommended an audiobook to me a couple days ago. You recommended Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. Actually was turned into a multi-part radio drama by the BBC, and it is available on Audible, and it's great.
That's cool. I read that book.
It stars Mark Heap, who you may know from Spaced, the Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg show, and Peter Serafinowicz, who you might also know from that same show or a lot of other like British comedy.
They're super good
as the two main characters, but the whole cast is great. It's a good performance. If you have or haven't read that book, it's a different it's an adaptation to radio play, or if you just like Neil Gaiman or Terry Pratchett and haven't read that, it's a great way to hear that story.
Yeah, it's super cool that there were radio dramas also on Audible. Like I didn't know
cool.
that was there.
A good listen. Anyway, check it out. audiblepodcast.com/thumbs.
Nice.
Video game.
Thanks also to returning sponsor MeUndies. As you surely know, a provider of high-quality underpants, T-shirts, all kinds of good undergarments. Very attractive and stylish, we have found.
And comfortable.
And extremely comfortable, yes, I can attest to that. If you go to MeUndies.com/thumbs, you can get 20% off and free shipping.
Buy a bunch of underpants.
I'm going to get some. I need some new MeUndies.
There you go.
Now's your chance.
Check it out.
Underpants, socks, shirts, boxers, boxer briefs.
And yeah, they have new styles that come out like on a monthly basis. They have some very outrageous styles.
But they also have classic,
tasteful, basic.
tasteful.
Yeah.
They have tasteful styles and outrageous styles.
Yes, exactly.
I like
They have styles that are tastefully outrageous, one might even say.
I like the thought that you would find any style of underpants outrageous.
I'm outraged by these styles.
If you were to see them, those are outrageous.
Yeah, 20% off and free shipping on an order if you go to MeUndies.com/thumbs.
Thanks, MeUndies.
You're welcome, Chris. I'm the voice of MeUndies. New announcement.
Video game.
We're back!
Oh man, are we back?
Whoa!
We're super bad.
Spaff,
I played
heard
a video
that you played
game.
Oh, you just said that.
I said it. I played a video game. I played a game called Cosmophony. I don't know how to pronounce it. Wow. Cosmophony. It isn't particularly new, but it just came out on PS4 this week. I think it's been on Wii U and PS3 and Android and iOS. And it's a drum and bass kind of beat matching shooter thing. The best way of describing this is the most annoying way that you told me earlier by combining genres. But Jake,
meets.
do you remember Sonic the Hedgehog 2's special stage?
Yeah, the one where you're running on the sphere that's a
The
grid.
half pipe.
No, Sonic 2's the half pipe. Yeah.
The one in the
yeah,
pipe.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, which is Sonic 1 the one where you're on the
Yes,
giant checker sphere? Okay, sorry.
No, that's Sonic 3. Sonic 1 is...
Sonic 1 is you're just in a rotating grid
and they
of
were-
fish and stuff.
Yeah, weird birds and shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Sonic 2, the one where you're running down a pipe.
The half pipe, yeah.
Yeah, imagine that, except you're trying to avoid rings instead of collect them. And it's
So imagine
also-
it's all spike bombs.
yeah, exactly. And it's all to a drum and bass soundtrack, which is super good. And every move is really tight, and it really matches the music as you're playing through it. So the game itself isn't particularly deep. I think there's like 5 levels. So it really feels much more like a mobile game. You can see why it's suited to that. Kind of more like Super Hexagon or something. But it's super, super fucking hardcore, and the music's really good if you like drum bass anyway. But drum bass has so much going on, like the different layers of it, that it works really well for a game that's about both the beat and the
Like shifting around to align your
shifting around
character,
to the beat and like trying to like you can move left and right, but you can also shoot a little laser thing to hit certain targets, and that normally fires off separate notes. So you're kind of moving in time with the beat, but then suddenly it'll drop like a big bassy thing and make you kind of go all the way around, like all the way up on the sides, but kind of like no, you know. It's really good fun. Super hardcore.
Sounds like the best Sonic game from the last 20 years.
Yeah, it's like Rez and Super Hexagon and Sonic 2.
Nice.
Yeah, I really liked it. It was also really cheap. It was
I
like,
like that too.
I bought it my PS4
When you
still
accidentally
configured for
purchased it.
England. When I accidentally purchased it for £4. It's probably like $7 or something. I don't know. But I recommend giving it a go. It's really good.
Cool.
Nice.
Cool. If I had a PS4, I have every other system that it's available for, I think, other than Android.
Wii U.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really hard. Like you basically, as you're going through it, if you get it wrong once, you die and you have to start again the whole song. But there's a practice mode. Like it really requires you to memorize certain moves. Like it's really, really tight. Which is why it kind of reminded me of like DDR stuff, when you really have to kind of remember, or like Guitar Hero, where you have to remember kind of shapes that are coming up for certain parts of the song. But in a much more kind of, arcadey left and right kind of way. There's a practice mode though that lets you kind of skip forward checkpoints and stuff. But yeah, it's super good.
What's it called again?
Cosmophony.
Cosmophony.
Cosmophony, all right.
Yeah, like cacophony.
But in the cosmos.
But with the cosmos, yeah.
You guys want to do some reader mail?
Yeah. Not this week.
Oh, too bad, Jake. Ian writes, predictions from Idle Thumbs 2000. In episode 20, Idle Thumbs 2000, released in February 2009, reader Elliot Centrella asked, in 2015, what percentage of gamers will care about game criticisms and academic questions such as ludonarrative dissonance? The predictions were, these clearly were very serious predictions.
Wow.
The predictions were as follows. Nick, 32%. Chris, 100%. Jake, 2015 is in the future. I don't think that any of us are really qualified to answer 8 people. Chris suggested they use the Price is Right rules and returned to the question in 2015. So what's the verdict? Which thumb has won this showcase showdown? Additionally, do you have any predictions for 2021?
What was the original
Nick
question?
nailed it.
32%?
I think Nick is the closest.
Oh, really? I was going to say 9 people. The question was...
Yeah, do you think we're really closer to 32% of all gamers caring about ludonarrative dissonance, or closer to 9 people or 8 people, whatever it is?
Yeah, you're right about that. I'm just judging from Twitter, which again is a smaller.
So we're talking about closest without going over? It's gotta be me.
I was correct.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, in your Twitter feed. Well, 100%. If it's is Price is Right closest without going over? Is that how that works?
I think it is without going
Then
over,
you've lost for
I've
sure.
lost. I guarantee you'd lose. It's funny that I said 100% and then I was the one who suggested Price is Right.
Kind of shot yourself in the foot on that one.
Yeah.
That's how much you care about ludonarrative dissonance.
Let's just declare Nick the winner.
What
Yeah.
percentage of Mad Max Fury Road filmgoers will care about whether that movie is feminist or not
Oh,
in
God.
2015?
Oh Lord.
That's the question I was actually
12%.
answered, and I was right 100% of Twitter users.
Of Twitter users, yes.
I was probably right when it comes to closest without going over of actual audience members.
Actually,
Mad Max, hell of a film.
yeah, I liked it a lot.
I did too.
Let's see what else we have here. Adrian,
I also liked it.
I have not
I'm
seen
seeing it
yet.
again
Boo.
tomorrow.
Oh, yeah?
That's how much I
I'm
enjoyed
gonna
it.
see it tomorrow.
So am I.
Me
Holy
too.
shit. What?
Fuck.
Where at?
Are we all going to see this?
I'm not going to tell people where.
So they'll show up.
at the
Kanye may show up in 2
secret
weeks to that location.
Kanye will
are
show
you
up.
both seeing it again just because you liked it so much?
I am.
Yeah. I'm seeing it again because
mean,
a
with
friend of
different
mine liked it
people,
enough that
but-
he wanted to go see it, and then I said, "Oh, I will also go see it."
That's cool.
Because I did like it a lot. It was good.
I saw it at a preview screening with a whole bunch of, like, an entire biker club had been invited. And they were all, like, right behind me. Some people were actually, like, cosplaying for sure, and some people were like, that is... Leather is, like, how they do...
It's just your
how they
clothes.
do, which is really awesome, and they were super enthusiastic.
And they all
it was-
stormed out
They were
saying,
so
how dare this
happy.
ruin...
How dare this feminist...
Besmirch American action cinema.
It was kind of the most ideal audience to watch that movie with. It was like extra special because of them. I thought.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Adrian Mills writes, Hi Thumbs, a couple weeks back you were talking about unintentional humor in games. I thought I'd share one incident from the PS2 version of Half-Life. Half-Life on the PS2 is okay, but it had a split-screen deathmatch mode in it for 2 players. I can't remember what characters you could play at, but you could definitely play as Gordon Freeman. However, what they hadn't bothered to do is animate the faces in any way whatsoever. What this meant is that my friend and I would load it up, put it on deathmatch, run the characters together, and whoever was controlling Freeman would beat the other player to death with a crowbar. The sight from the person getting beaten was a dead-faced, spectacled man with a never-changing expression slowly beating him to death with a crowbar.
Oh my God.
We found this hilarious because it was so incongruous to the rest of the game.
No, it's not. That is not. That is okay. I gotta
is
stop this email right there
Half-Life.
because that is
Definitely the Idle
exactly.
Thumbs canonical
Yeah, no.
view of-
That spoiler. I'm sorry. That was a creative choice by Valve that was correct because that is what everyone sees when Gordon Freeman is beating them to death with a crowbar: is an expressionless, unchanging face until their eyes go dark. Like his eyes were dark the whole time. Like there's no way.
He's a broken man.
You think Gordon's face fucking moves? No, incorrect. He's Jason Voorhees.
He also offers making the 1,500-meter runners run out of stamina on Virtua Athlete on Dreamcast never gets old, as they would basically become silent movie-style mannequins trying to run. Anyway, keep up the good work, Adrian Mills, Lincoln, England.
That's lovely.
Greg Knight writes, Where's that Zoltan machine? Hi guys. While joking about Broken Age being quote too big on iPad, you wondered where the Zoltan. We were kidding about that, by the way. You wondered where the Zoltan machine from the movie Big is today. It's in the lobby of the Falcon Theater in Burbank, a small performing arts space founded by Gary Marshall. And now you know, Greg.
Oh, Zoltan.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
We can go
We
be
could all
big.
visit it. Yeah, it's close by.
We could all be big. Well, we'd all just become old.
Really
Can't
old.
we be 13 again? Doesn't it work in reverse?
No.
Oh.
That would be small.
Tom Huber, right?
God, that movie's been pitched. That movie has been pitched for sure.
Oh, yeah,
Of
definitely.
Tom Hanks' character actually grown up and having his just like, Sofia Coppola midlife, like directed by midlife crisis, and then he becomes a child.
Mm-hmm.
That script has been written on spec a million times. They never
definitely.
picked
Oh,
up.
are you sure?
Small.
Yeah, there's got to be like 30 of those.
Time to resubmit it.
30 small.
Yes.
Tom Huber writes, Hey Thumbs, I've experienced a new Tetris effect this week I thought you might find amusing. After playing a few hours of Crypt of the NecroDancer, I felt compelled to continue to always perform an action to the beat of whatever song was currently playing. Link on my phone doesn't load fast enough, press back. Reading a tweet, keep scrolling up and down slightly to keep up with the tempo. It didn't last too long, but it was quite entertaining. Keep up the good pods, Tom Huber.
Nice.
I've definitely experienced that kind of thing,
Oh,
for
yeah, I
sure.
love those.
Yeah.
Spaff is still actually playing Cosmophony in his brain.
I think he might be.
Man, that game, it beat the shit out of me. It's
With
really
its
hard.
beats.
Oh, man. Beat match the shit out of me.
Chase Bacot writes, Hey Thumbs, just wanted to send along word that the use of diegetic sounds adds to the already insane Mad Max film. I know Chris has talked in the past about how much he likes diegetic sound, and while there's also great use of non-diegetic, the creativity and outlandishness of this works super well, I think. Not sure how much you guys are into this sort of film, but I felt the need to pass it along.
Yeah, that's a really...
Talking specifically about like the Guitar Man, or
that's what I'm wondering, yeah.
because the Guitar Man
I
is the
think
most
so, yeah.
extreme example of that.
Yeah. So, like, just to clarify what we're talking about here, diegetic sounds in a movie or a game or whatever that's audio that is actually from the world itself, as opposed to like a soundtrack layered on top. And yeah, so I guess he's talking about like the crazy bungee guitar guy whose guitar is like part of the musical score of the movie, but also is like being
There's
played
like
by
a
him.
guy on an electric guitar, like, and whenever he gets close to the camera, he just happens to also be playing along in a way that just
Right.
also pumps up the soundtrack.
Yeah,
yeah, it's
Always,
amazing.
man, he's good. He's
the bikers in the audience behind me kept saying, "Hey, Nathan!" So they either knew this guy, like the actual dude,
or he
in the
reminded them of their friend who they're
he
making
looked
fun of.
exactly like their friend. Yeah,
Well, that the person playing that role is like a known Australian like burlesque person.
that's
Called
wonderful.
Nathan.
I think the name is Iota, and like I saw this movie with my fiance and also our two friends who are Australian, and they
nice,
like
yeah.
both like when that person was credited in the credits, they were like, yeah, like they both
They
knew
got excited.
who it was. Yeah,
Well, that's pretty.
the character's
cool.
name I think was the Doof, like something
The Doof.
something
Oh,
the
it's-
Doof,
Yeah,
or
that's.
something like that.
I mean, that's kind of perfect for like Immortan Joe and Furiosa.
Yeah,
And
but yeah, speaking of that, if you see this movie, it is worth staying through the credits at least to just see the name of every single
Yes.
character in this movie. All of the characters in this movie, almost all the characters in the movie, are individually named, and they all have fucking insane,
Yes.
hilarious names.
Yep.
It's
Yes.
really, really good.
It's really
That
wonderful.
guitar guy. I mean, that guitar guy made all of Mad Max Fury Road remind me of Brutal Legend 300 times more
yes.
than anything
Yes,
else
yes,
did.
Yes, definitely.
Because, I mean, obviously Brutal Legend is informed by the aesthetic of the earlier Mad Max movies, but then having just this huge rack
Oh,
of
yeah.
amps with a swinging guitar man, oh man.
also, they built that for real.
Yeah, I know.
They built the whole thing, including the
That's
flames, and like
incredible.
the amps were real and amplified the guitar. On an actual vehicle that
Yeah,
drove.
being on set for that would be really entertaining to me, to hear
Oh, yeah.
just a guy wailing on a goddamn guitar driving around in the desert.
Yes.
Anyway,
I have one last Mad Max detail, other than the fact that it's an awesome movie that I loved.
Spaff's gonna hate it, I can tell.
No spoilers, but the older woman towards the end, she had seeds and stuff. She did her own stunts, and she's 74, and it's Melissa Jaffer, Farscape actress. In fact, she's one of the main actresses from the 4th season of Farscape, and I got very excited about that.
Nice.
Just want you all to know.
Got to do Farscape rewatch.
That's right. Yes, I'm going to. It's happening.
Nice.
Me and Melissa Jaffer, we're going to make it happen.
Let's see, what else do we have?
I think I've ever seen that show.
I have not either.
Maybe I have. Oh, I think
I want you to.
Is that the weird Jim Henson one?
Yes, it is. It's an Australian.
that I have seen some of it.
Henson was a co-production between Henson and like whoever else
Well,
and
not
other
Jim
people,
Henson,
and it
but
was an
Henson.
Australian show actually, which is why every actor in it was Australian except for the one American dude. And Henson did the puppets for it.
But yeah, I have seen bits of it.
Senkis writes, "Hey, Thumbs. Recently with the leak about Fallout 4 and the crazy events surrounding Silent Hills and Konami, I got to wondering why game development is so guarded. In the movie industry, you hear about movies being made years out, often before anything's even set in stone. Why, in comparison, is the video game industry afraid of development news getting out before they're ready to tell it? An example that comes to mind is Firewatch. On the podcast, a few months before the reveal of the game, Jake jokingly said the name of the game and it was bleeped out of the podcast. He later joked about saying the name of the game again, to which he was met with a don't you dare sort of response. What would it have mattered if we knew you guys were working on a game called Firewatch at the time? I don't mean to pick on Sean, Nick, or Jake, so I'm sorry for choosing your game as the example. Nick didn't work on Firewatch. But having just recently listened to the entire Thumbs catalog, it was something that came to mind. Obviously, this happens every year with Activision trying their best to pretend there's not a new Call of Duty in the works. Meanwhile, in the movie industry, we knew that Mad Max Fury Road has been kicking around for a decade and a half, and it was no big deal. Anyway, I was curious to hear the podcast take on this. Thanks for reading, Matt Huster.
It's tough because, I mean, on one hand, it is dumb and not worth bothering to try and control that sort of stuff. But on the other hand, for certain types of announcements, you're just going to get a more propulsive response if you bottle it up and release all the information at the same time. Like, if the name of the game even comes out and people write a story saying, oh, these guys are making a game called Firewatch, and then when you give your big info dump, they'll be like, more information on Firewatch released is the headline, instead of new game announcement, here's assets for it. I mean, and on the other hand, it's true. I don't think it always matters, but it also isn't. There's not no reason for holding information, I think.
So why is the film industry so different then?
I don't know.
Do you think? Is it because they kind of advertise they're making a thing and then look
I
for
think
people to work on it? And
I think it's because,
money?
well, okay, I don't know. I'm not going to say this is the reason, but I think a big reason is because film is, at least when we talk about like larger budget films that need a mass audience to succeed, they're aiming for such a broader, bigger section of just the world population than games are. So like, you can say everything you want about every movie you're making for the next decade, and 99% of the people who are going to see your movie are going to have no idea until you start buying TV ads and radio ads and magazine ads and everything else. Whereas in games, a much higher percentage of the people who are ultimately going to buy your thing are like obsessively reading IGN and Kotaku and like all these things.
And because of that, the way that the press covers games is different than the way the press covers film. And the audience, like, Entertainment Weekly is not going to write a huge story about a film until it is done and out, and you have infinite assets and can give them all the stars.
Or a couple months out.
When it's like when it's in its launch window. Whereas, you'll burn all of your like IGN or Kotaku interest with your early announcements, and then they won't talk about you until you're done. So you have to actually be careful with what you put out because the press and the audience are so just like all consuming of this information. It ends up making the information itself valuable unless you don't mind just always having a slow drip going. But for at least, and I guess for the specifics of the game that we're working on right now, since it's a single player game with a fixed amount of content, we also just don't want to constantly unleash stuff. If you're making Nuclear Throne or, Don't Starve or something like that, fine. Or Prison Architect, a game that is infinitely replayable, you could just talk about it whenever because you're always picking up new people. You're always changing your game. Your game is always different. Whereas ours is like a movie in its it's a fixed content single player experience, but we're delivering that content from a marketing standpoint to the same audience that is just this all-consuming, really hardcore fan base. It makes it really tough, and it's a thing we actually talk about a lot as far as what to do and what not to do, and are we making the right choice? Also, I don't know. There's a million ways you could do it, and we just happen to pick this method.
Yeah, it's true. It's a very tough thing to figure out, and part of the question, I wonder if the question is entirely, he said, why is game development so secretive? And I wonder if part of it has to do with the process part. Like, this is maybe not what the person was asking about, but one thing I saw today was a piece on Polygon about the Castlevania guy, Igarashi, his his Bloodstained Kickstarter, which is his sort of, Castlevania-like game that he's making. And they asked for $500,000. The actual budget of the game is $5 million, 90% of which he said he would have been capable. He already was planning on getting through publishing sources or other funding sources. But the game, they asked for $500,000 unless you drill down and go find interviews with him and read quotes and stuff. It just kind of looks, or really scour the information that's available. Most people are just going to look at that, be like, $500,000, great. Oh man, they raised 5 times that. This is amazing. And there's been a weird effect with what you have to, the kind of game you have to play in terms of what you can ask for on Kickstarter to not look presumptuous or greedy versus what you actually need in order to make the game that you're trying to make. Yeah. And I think the result of this is that people have really, really, really skewed ideas about what game budgets are.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
I don't know if this is that relevant to the person's question, but it just made me think about how incredibly off the perceptions of game development are to realities of game development, and how incredibly difficult it seems to be to bridge that gap. I mean, Double Fine did the whole Double Fine Adventure documentary, which is definitely by far one of the best, probably the single best, just look into kind of large scale or mid scale game development that anyone's ever published in its kind of just comprehensiveness and
it seems like Double Fine Adventure, because they were so open and because of that, Double Fine Adventure feels the specific problems that they encounter and the specific solutions they choose are unique to that game, but
they're not totally outrageous,
right? But I think the specifics of Double Fine Adventure's problems and pitfalls and roadblocks that they have kind of painted it as, oh, that's what a troubled production looks like. Mm-hmm. It's actually just what game production looks like.
It's totally true. It's exactly true. And because they announced it, this actually does connect to the person's question, because the game was announced before there was even a plot development started going on, it made it seem like development took forever, whereas in reality, it totally took a normal amount of time for a game of that scope, a completely normal amount of time. It felt like it was really delayed, but that's one reason not to tell people about your game early, because if you take the normal amount of time it takes to make a game, people are going to think it's taking forever, whereas in reality, it's just that people usually don't tell you until it's a year out.
I actually want to jump back to Firewatch for half a second, because I think Firewatch being used as an example of a game being secret is also maybe a little bit funky, because, over the course of talking about this, I thought back to why we didn't say anything until we did. And the other big thing, at least for me personally, and I can't even speak for the whole team, let alone for all of game development, but for me, I wanted to wait. I think we all, actually, I will speak for the people, because I think we all wanted to wait until we talked about Firewatch in any way in public, until we had enough of a game built that we could put something out that would give people context for everything else that we wanted to talk about in regards to Firewatch. Mm-hmm. Because our team really does, we've actually, I think, been really open with our development. We don't put big marketing drops out, but we have a development blog that is updated at least once a month, at its best times closer to once every couple of weeks, that is sharing all sorts of code and in progress level art and concept art and people talking about the process of making the game. But it was actually really painful early on in production, because we wanted to put all that stuff up on the blog, but we realized that there would actually be no point when people had no idea what the game actually was or what they were looking at. If you're like, look, this is a tree from our upcoming game. Our game is called Firewatch, and it's about a guy with a radio. People would be like, I don't know why I should care about this tree. But if we held off long enough till we could put together a trailer, have a logo, be able to speak to the game and show a representative chunk of it, from then on, whenever we put, then we were open the gates. Anyone on the team can put a blog up about whatever they want, because we knew that anyone who stumbled across our site because they had seen Firewatch in the press, or because they were really enthusiastic about it because they ran across it on Twitter, would have the lens of that consolidated initial marketing push through which they could see all of the really gross sort of half-built in progress stuff that we put in the dev blog. Whereas if you don't say, this finished little window over here is what all of this junk on the blog is aiming for, I don't think that it lets people have the window through which they can sort of appreciate the process.
Yeah. I was going to ask if the secrecy is sort of a legacy thing from the days where all of the tech, every single house had their own engine, their own technology, their own like entirely different way of making a game, and those were considered like trade secrets.
I think that's part of it, and I also like game studios also just used to be a lot more secret. Like I think Valve is the craziest example of this in kind of both directions, but still secretly also really old school. Because like Valve forever was just like silent entity with one little GIF on their homepage of the guy with the socket coming out of the back of his head, and then every now and then they would be like, a new game will appear, and then it just appeared, and then they would just go silent again, and you're like, what was that? You just amazing thing came out of nowhere. And I feel like a lot of studios were like that for a long time, where it's like, other than the magazine preview that you'd get nothing. And then it felt like Valve opened up for a while, but now it feels like that is like somehow turned inside out on itself, where they're just completely impenetrable again. But there's a culture of secrecy for sure, but there's also a huge culture of openness and of just sharing all sorts of stuff.
It's what tier of the industry you're probably in at this point a lot.
I think people also just have to think about what's the correct move for their project, because you still are managing the reality of this huge but also incredibly focused and like kind of content addicted audience, and the press that you have, and sort of are you like, how do you release things for really people who are really excited about your game already, versus how do you message things to mainstream gaming press, versus like how do you even attempt to get someone like Entertainment Weekly to cover your game the way they'd cover a movie. And it's a bunch
really
of crazy stuff you have to consider.
I think we've really backed ourselves into a weird corner where we're self-perpetuating the same thing, where it's like we're worried that people will be disappointed, so we have to manage expectations by not telling them anything, because the game, I don't know if you've noticed recently, but the games community is crazy. Crazy. And if you do anything slightly like, there's a new game coming out, we had to cancel it, then everyone will go fucking bananas. Like, it's just stupid. So people are really, really worried about managing those expectations. We can't tell anyone we're making this until we're sure it's actually going to be made and we know kind of what it's about.
Yeah,
and
the old publisher model and sort of mandated corporate secrecy in that also just did shield the culture of game fans and even game press from a ton of stuff. Whereas in the film industry, everyone does announce their production slate years in advance. Like, we knew Pixar was making Inside Out and The Good Dinosaur and all these things like 40 years ago or something. So then when they're like, just so everyone knows, Good Dinosaur is not coming out for like 3 or 4 years and has a new director, everyone goes, oh shit, but also whatever, come back when you're, the 8,000th version of Spider-Man that people have tried to get off the ground or whatever else. Like, so like, because those things are announced so much more loudly, I think that the film criticism culture and film media culture and even film fans are used to being like, oh, Guillermo del Toro is off the 8,000th project that he was on. Whereas if you're like,
as opposed to Guillermo del Toro being off
Silent Hill.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
He's been attached to and fallen off of like a billion movies that people have been like, I'm excited. Oh, I guess that's just not what happens. Whereas that time it happens in a game, it's like
so game
a tragedy. Kojima's not with Konami anymore. What? How dare you? How dare you? Like, revolt, consumer revolt. Like, whereas like the biggest like genre fans and the biggest H.P. Lovecraft fans in the world, when they heard that Del Toro lost the ability to make the Mountains of Madness for like the 3rd time at Universal or whatever, like, man, that's the breaks. That's how the film industry works. But it's just so different.
Yeah,
just different worlds.
Yeah.
I think I have to.
Oh, you got to take off?
Oh, you got to take off?
Sadly.
Maybe we should just end it. You guys want to just...
I can leave, or you can end it.
Why don't we all leave?
Okay.
Do
Chris,
all of it?
Do you want to not leave, Chris? Do you want to hang out?
You can do that.
I want to do whatever you guys want to do.
I want to stay. I just have to go see Tomorrowland.
Enjoy.
Thanks for the podcast, everybody. Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye, Danielle.
Bye.
Chris, do more reader mail.
Okay. See you next week.
Alex Lovendahl writes, Hi Thumbs, I've started listening through the Idle Thumbs backlog, and in the first episode, the first Idle Thumbs thesis is the concept of someone who only buys a game once every 1 or 2 years and only plays that one game. This extends to include one of your brothers who only played Free Space. Other cited examples include Elder Scrolls Oblivion, Counter-Strike, Peggle, and Zuma. Weirdly, we've come full circle on the subject with loads of reader mail on people finding this game. I'm a person who listens to 2 or 3 gaming podcasts a week and keeps up with multiple gaming news sites. These days I find myself pretty much just playing Spelunky, Hearthstone, and a couple of phone games. My girlfriend keeps up as well, but she pretty much just plays Towerfall, style-savvy Trendsetters, and Animal Crossing. And my friends who I used to invite to my podcast Game of the Year deliberations pretty much just play League of Legends. There's obviously much more complexity to it than that, with games slipping in and out sometimes, but it's pretty common for people who even consider themselves invested in the current state of games to just find their icon game and delve into it deeply. Thanks for the show, and welcome to Spaff, who's been a great new voice. Alex Lovendahl, Madison, Wisconsin.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a thing. I think, in fact, it's probably going to become more of a thing as mobile games become so omnipresent. Mm-hmm. You know, like I see people play mobile games on on the plane and on the bus and so on at a much higher rate than I would have ever seen them play like Game Boy games or DS games or PSP games in the past. And, like almost always they're playing games that kind of look the same and they're just sort of things you do to pass the time. And I'm sure there's like cool, interesting stuff in there, but in general, it seems like games for a lot of people, possibly an increasing number of people, serve kind of just a like wallpaper kind of function, where it's like I'm listening to something or like kind of just killing time right now. And kind
of like the mentality of like, I'm just going to do the crossword I'll read the newspaper,
right,
and then I'll do the puzzles maybe,
mm-hmm.
and then I'll leave that alone, and then
sure.
I'll do that again tomorrow. Like it must be that same. I don't know. I
mean, I think it's like, if any, this is maybe I don't know if this actually holds, but like to some degree, it's almost kind of just like fiddling with, like if you're just on the bus, like back before we had all this shit, when you're on the bus, like you could read a book or you could maybe listen to a Walkman, and that was about it. But if you're listening to music, if anything to do with your hands, maybe you're kind of drumming along to it, or you're, just kind of like fiddling with
doing some origami.
Like, I don't know. I just mean like, people. I think a lot of people like to just sort of keep themselves occupied in a very low intensity way. Yeah. And I think that's what games are probably serving for a lot of people at this point. I mean, I think including some of the people that this person is talking about. When I was doing the Spelunky Daily Challenge every day, the Daily Challenge is a little different because you really want to focus on that because you only have one chance. But definitely playing non-Daily Challenge Spelunky, just kind of do it. Like it's just kind of there. Like once you've played enough of that game, it's just like,
But is that? I guess it's that thing of when you come home and you you load up Steam and you look at your huge library of ever towering, growing games, and then you just like, just play Spelunky.
I could just play Spelunky.
But there's like something something familiar, something. Well, you don't have to bother learning a thing.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of I kind of don't like that. I mean, I do it sometimes, like everyone does, but it kind of grosses me out when I reflect on it. Because it's just like time that just gets sucked away.
You're paranoid about that, though, about using time in a way that is not
these days I don't have to worry about it because I literally have no time. There's no...
So if you ever play Spelunky, you actually play it for like 5 minutes, then your eyes refocus on the screen and you just scream and turn it off.
I mean, I guess I do that I guess the actual thing for that for me is the New York Times crossword, the actual... What you were saying, literally the New York Times crossword. I do that every day, and that's definitely... I mean, Friday and Saturday are fucking hard, but like most of the days until that point, I can just kind of do most of the time, just sort of without like a huge amount of focus and attention paid.
I think like games are taking that space for some people. Like my mom definitely plays Threes, and that's the only game that my mom plays. And, that definitely kind of feels like it's in that place of...
Yeah, it's a churn.
Would have done a little puzzle or something, maybe. Or
playing Threes is like basically playing Sudoku or something.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. What do you play, Jake?
I don't know. I can't remember.
You can't remember? What does that mean?
Just over and over again.
It means that I don't feel like I have time to even play the game that I play when I'm not doing anything.
Ending with a bang.
Thanks for listening to this podcast, Idle Thumbs Podcast. If you like it, rate us on iTunes, please.
Yeah, thanks. We're also at idlethumbs.net/idlethumbs. You can find links to all of the places we are on the internet. Tell a friend if you enjoyed it. Thanks for listening.
Have you finished your Twin Peaks rewatch now?
Oh, no. We actually are recording the final episode. Well, the podcast on the final episode of the TV show tomorrow. And then we have to, after that, record one about the movie Firewalk with Me.
Yes.
And the Mad Men?
Mad Men is done. It's out. Our final Mad Men podcast was released today. Cool. It's crazy.
The final Dota podcast is all. No, that, who knows? Who knows
This has
that
been
guy?
the final Idle Thumbs podcast.
Yes. Yeah, remember that time when we invented that Coca-Cola ad?
Bye.
Bye, everyone.